going to talk about estate planning. This is estate planning right here. We have the son opening up his mess, and it says to his dad, the dad says to the son, someday, son, this will all be yours. That is estate planning, and that's really about, most of you have plans exactly like that. 73% of America's affluent today do not have a logical plan to distribute wealth from one generation to the next. And if they do have a plan, most of those plans are antiquated, and they really haven't been updated. So we need to have updated estate plans, obviously. What do all of these celebrities have in common? They're gone. That's right, they're all gone. And we know Gene Hackman most recently, it was a travesty, the entire scene there in Santa Fe that happened to Gene, one of my favorite actors, by the way. And all of these celebrities are gone. I was in love at 19 with Olivia Hussey down here in Romeo and Juliet. I think all of us that were about my age were in love with her as well, but they're all gone. And so we have to have an estate plan in place because the Egyptians were absolutely 100% wrong. We cannot take it with us. So in your kit that's been handed out to you today is a little form, and if you would like any of these ideas that I talk about today in the 10 most common estate planning mistakes, they spur interest to you. Check it, fill it out, and we'll make sure you get that information. By doing so, you're going to get a free copy of my book, The 10 Most Common Estate Planning Mistakes and How to Avoid Them, which kind of coincides with what we're going to be talking about today. I have some of them up here. We have a break, so you can come up and get them after that. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when they plan estates is they don't study it. They don't prepare for it. My family is doing a vacation, all 19 of us, on a cruise in the Eastern Mediterranean. You would think it's just a cruise, you just kind of go and you hang out. No, there's a lot of planning that's going to go into this, and it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. But I will tell you that most of us do not do that much planning for our estates, and we have to have a logical plan. So one of the ways is to gain an education, and our website, Estate Planning Made Easy, EPMEZ.com, is a very good place to go to get some basic knowledge on estate planning, on the things to do. When we're discussing today, if you're making any of those 10 mistakes on your form, the bigger form is the one you actually get to take with you. And that form, if you're making any of those 10 mistakes down there, just check them as we go. That's for you to keep, so then it'll kind of be your education and your reminder of what we talked about today. What are the mistakes that we see most often? Earlier said, not having a plan and having an antiquated plan. That's the number one mistake, just not doing anything. Number two mistake is believing that politicians are going to absolve us from the responsibility of actually planning. We have seen this now with this the shell game that's going on, especially with the estate tax exclusion that's going on right now. Now, currently, with the exclusion as being as high as it is right now, $14 million each, $28 million per couple, it only impacts about 1,000 estates a year in our country. About 1,000 estates. Very few people, but it's a big political thing. And people talk a lot about it, and they get a lot of traction for it. President Biden, just 4 years ago, introduced the Build Back Better Act. And in that, he wanted to take everything. He wanted to get rid of the step-up in basis. He wanted to bring the exclusion down to $3.5 million. I mean, it was a mess. Fortunately, it didn't pass. He didn't get elected, or Kamala didn't get elected, and so we are in a good time period right now to do some strategic planning. But we do have looming ahead the repeal of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Now, there are those that say that it's not going to happen, that it'll get extended. But until I hear the words approved, extended, I'm not going to believe it. And I'm going to plan my estate, and I want you to think about planning your estates before this tax doomsday on December 31st, 2025, when the Tax Cut and Jobs Act is set to repeal. That's only 200 and some odd days from now. So you need to make some planning and be thinking about it now. It's a critical time to do that. Because we know that the federal exclusion is going to get repealed, and it's going to go, instead of 14 million, it's going to go down to 5 million, adjusted for inflation, to about $7 million. Well, okay, maybe most of you in this room don't have a $7 million estate or $14 million between you. But I'll guarantee you there's some of you that do. And we need to make sure that our plan is in place. But what if I'm only worth $1 million or $2 million? Do I not have a plan? No, because if you don't have a plan, the government has a plan for you, and that is not going to be in your favor or the kids' favor. Now is the time to move, to get going. Mistake number 3, blindly leaving everything to your spouse because of portability. Previously, we used the A and the B credit shelter trust. A lot of you have heard about that. It was a very, very popular estate planning strategic move that we did. When portability was introduced in 2012, people stopped doing that. Bad mistake. There's 10 reasons why, and they're all in my book, the 10 most common, why you do not want to rely on portability. Get the A and B credit shelter trust in place. Why? Well, one reason, the main reason I think, is because if one spouse, or when once the first spouse passes away, and let's say, like my mom and dad, my dad passed away 15 years before my mother. Well, what if the estate grows after and significantly grows? What if our investments do extremely well and they grow after? Well, if the money's in the A trust, it grows tax-free. It could be worth $5 million when you put it in and $40 million later on, and there'll be no estate tax, period, ever. That's the way the rules are. So you want to not use portability. You want to actually do some planning. Mistake number 4 is paying too much income and capital gains tax. Now, you'll see that this particular slide is red, and I'm going to be coming back to that slide, and I'm going to spend some time on this slide, all of the ones that are in red, so I'm not going to talk too much about it right now. Mistake number 5 is also in red, and it is not using the annual exclusion, which is currently $19,000, properly. And it's also not using the $14 million lifetime exclusion properly. So there are some moves that you can make that will take advantage of these gifts that the government is giving us, that we're allowing us to transfer assets from one generation to the next, wealth transfer. Mistake number 6, just doing it wrong, having the wrong investments in place. And you think everything's good, and then all of a sudden, boom, the floor falls out from under you, and your 401k becomes a 201k overnight, okay? And so those are investment decisions that you make that just didn't work out. But did you know that $6 billion in 2024 was lost due to investment schemes? So you got to be careful on where you put your money as well. But do you stuff it under the mattress, or do you throw it all on the roulette table? I have a suggestion for you. Take some of your money and put it into an indexed annuity. Why would I do that? From 2000 to 2024, if I had to put my money into an indexed annuity with no market risk at all, 0 risk, because if the index that I'm using as my marker, in this case the S&P 500, goes down, you don't get to participate in any of the losses in that. 0. You get 0 for that year, but you don't get to participate in any losses. So you don't have any risk. Sure, you could say, well, the strength of the insurance company is my risk. Well, I'm talking about a 160-year-old insurance company that's been through everything. I mean, depression, wars, you name it, it's been through it. And these companies are strong and solid, and so you want to put your money in those types of companies. But listen, look at this. This is very interesting, because in red is the S&P 500 for that same period of time. And you've had all this worry and angst, and you also have losses during that period of time. And so at the $1 million, over the same period of time, is worth $3 million. Not bad, you tripled your money. But in an indexed annuity without any risk at all, it went up to $5.4 million. So don't put it all there, but put some of it in there. And you can actually do this inside of your IRAs and your 401ks. It can be qualified money that goes in there. So take some risk. Now is the time to take some chips off the table, especially if you're over 65. Take some chips off the table. You can also start creating guaranteed income. And the guaranteed income is a way in which you can help replenish or add to Social Security if Social Security is something that you rely on. But really, what I like to show here is that I put it in 100,000. Right now, income annuities are at an all-time 20-year high. Right now. So jump in and take some of your money off the table, put it into if you need income, and put it into the income in what's called income annuity. And that's in the green here. But I really actually like the indexed annuity with an income rider in it because I get paid more. Look at a 70-year-old is 85, put it in 100,000, gets $8,500 every year for the rest of his life. If he waits 5 years to take the income out, it's $13,000 a year for the rest of his life. So these are kind of things, these are strategic moves that you need to make right now, not only for you, but for your family as well. So you got to understand, we're transferring money. We're also trying to save money so that we don't lose it all in the market. Mistake number 7. There's a risk out there that a lot of you really haven't thought about. It's called longevity risk. What is longevity risk? Well, we're seeing it all the time. People are living longer, even with COVID, even with that taking us down about a year or so, but we're still living longer than we ever have before. And so what if we live too long? What is a longevity risk? Well, the first one is market risk. The longer we live, there's an assurity that the market will change somewhere along the line. We'll have a 2008, we'll have 2001, we'll have some kind of a market adjustment. The longer we live, we could run out of money. We may not have enough money. We live too long. We'll see inflation. We'll see deflation the longer we live. We're also going to see sometime in that period, as long as we live, if we live too long, an increase in income taxes. Right now we're at the lowest income taxes we've been in 85 years, but that's not always going to be the case. So we need to understand the longer we live, the more we're going to have to pay in taxes. The longer we live, also, we're going to experience a long-term medical event. It's inevitable. We will have a long-term event, a long-term care event. Unless you're like my mom, 95 years old, just decided one day, I'm done, and that was it. But she did live with my brother and sister-in-law for the last 5 years, but she was driving, and it was, anyway. But most of us will have some kind of a long-term medical event. And so one of the things we need to do is we need to prepare for that and prepare for the possibility that that's going to happen. We must take longevity risk off the table. We just got to eliminate it by ensuring now that that's not really our life. One of those risks is, as I said, long-term care. And there is a solution. It's a report that I wrote called the Leveraged Care Solution. And I did bring some of them with me, but in your form there, you can actually check that if you would like to receive a copy of that, my staff will send it to you. This is a report the way it looks like this. And it explains the different options that you have with regard to long-term care. You don't really have to go back in time and do the traditional long-term care plans. There's new, very, very sexy estate planning long-term care plans that are today. And in essence, what you do is you reposition money from your left pocket to your right pocket. Actually not spending any money, you're just transferring it from left to right. It's still an asset on your balance sheet. One of those is the long-term care annuity. So I put in $100,000. It's worth immediately $300,000 for immediately. And if I can't do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living or I'm cognitively impaired, it expands 3 times to $300,000. As I earn interest in the long-term care annuity, it generates income. It increases that position. So if my annuity goes from 100 to 200,000, my long-term care pool is $600,000. You see how it grows like that? If I don't need long-term care, which is everybody's goal, the annuity value goes to my beneficiary. So it's a pretty cool deal. That's called long-term care annuity. The other one is what's called the life legacy long-term care, where you actually buy a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider in it. You have to qualify medically for all of these. You can't be in a nursing home and get these. But in the life legacy long-term care, you actually have a life insurance policy. That is your pool for long-term care. If you don't need it for care, the life insurance benefit goes to your family. If you need it for care, it comes off of the long-term care, off of the life insurance benefit. Then probably the most popular one is what's called the return of premium long-term care. And this one immediately starts with a pool of 3 to 5 times depending on your age. So if I put in $100,000, my pool is 300 or 400, 500 depending on my age, and that's what I have as my initial pool. But it has an inflation rider on it at 3%, and that's what increases the long-term care benefit. So if you're 60 years old, by the time you would need long-term care at 80, say, your $100,000 immediately was $400,000, but it could be up to as much as $1 million, your long-term care pool by that time. So these are cool ideas that are out there right now that most of you don't even know about. So if it's something that if you're excited about, you want to know more about it, on your form that I have there, just check that. When you turn that in, I'll give you the 10 most common estate planning mistakes book, and then we'll send you that information on that. So that's the way the long-term care works. By the way, on the form that you have there too, all of these reports that we have that I'm talking about, Disinherit the IRS is one I'm not going to even mention here today, but all these reports are available at 50% discount on our website. You go to the QR code there, and it's on that handout that I gave you. Mistake 8, failure to properly plan the distribution of your pension account. This one's in red, and your 401k. So we're going to come back to that one. Mistake number 9, lacking liquidity to cover estate taxes or settlement taxes, because you have taxes on your retirement plans. And so when that day occurs, when both you and your spouse pass away and there's an estate tax that's due, that's liable, or an income tax that's due, what assets are going to be sold by your heirs to cover the tax bill? Your best assets or your worst assets? The most valuable ones will be sold. And they won't be sold at a discount. They'll be sold at a sacrifice. So what I suggest you do is set up what's called the wealth creation strategy. And in that, secure some life insurance. In this case, a joint and survivor, because I'm married, and I'm going to be age 65, say, and I need $1 million for liquidity from my family. Put in $11,000 today. Immediately, I'm insured for $1 million if both my wife and I pass away. My kids get $1 million tax-free. Not only income tax, but estate tax-free, and they use that to pay the tax liabilities. It's using pennies to create dollars for tomorrow. It's a very, very cool strategy, and we can set this up for you very easily. Now, of course, you have to be insurable to get that. Mistake number 10. The improper use of jointly held property. I see this a lot, where somebody comes in to have it, when we look at their estate, we see what the plan that they've designed, and lo and behold, their son is co-beneficiary with them on an asset, or they're named as a joint tenant. Do not do that. You don't need to do that. If they get sued, if they have a judgment against them by the IRS, they can come after you and take your home away from you. So you don't really want that. Set things up into a trust, what we call a revocable trust for estates under $500,000. Anything over $500 should get what's called a revocable dynasty trust. And if your estate's big enough, you're going to want to incorporate some irrevocable trust into that. Okay, so I told you we'd go back to a couple. We're going to go back to mistake number 4. Paying too much capital income and capital gains tax. You want to find investments that are tax deductible. So what's a tax deductible investment? An IRA, a 401k, those are tax deductible. You're going to want to also be able to take advantage of what's maximums that you're going to be able to put in these types of plan. If you're a physician, for example, and an anesthesiologist is a good example, you could set up what's called a 412E3 plan and get that out of your estate. You're going to also want to invest in tax investments. We already talked about one of those, and that's the annuities. Annuities are very, very good tax-deferred investment accounts. Because the money accumulates tax-deferred, you're able to accumulate it faster than if you have to pay like a CD every year you have to pay taxes. But I really like tax-free. Tax-free is my best, and that's what I would recommend you think about doing. And there's a plan called the Family Bank Strategy, and I think that's what Dallas, I think that's the video that he watched. And I have this book called the Family Bank Strategy that kind of coincides with this. I did bring some with me. They're $29 now on Amazon. For $20, if you have $20, and I have some, if you want to after the break, during the break, you can come up and get that book if you'd like. I love this quote from Ed Slott. Ed Slott's a very, very popular PBS guy. He's the nation's leading IRA expert. He is very, very popular, and he said this: if I could show you a way your family could be guaranteed to inherit your estate value today, tax-free. So whatever your estate is at today, tax-free, regardless of market conditions, regardless of interest, but how much you spend, wouldn't you want that? Well, the Family Bank Strategy can do that. And the secret is out, because all Americans can create their own family bank. And you do that through strategically transferring some money into a family bank. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. We have enough time. I'm confident that we can get to that. Mistake number 8, failure to plan the distribution of your IRA. I said we'd come back to this one. This is so critical because most of you are sitting with IRAs, and even if you have money in Bitcoin and it's in an IRA, there's going to be taxes that are going to be incurred upon the second generation, not your spouse, but on your kids. And I see this time and time again. I've seen IRAs that are in the $20 million range. That is silly. Hoarding your money in an IRA is playing into Uncle Sam's hand, because an IRA is simply an IOU to the IRS. You do not want to hoard this money. You want to start spending it. Fly first class. Do things, go on the cruises. Do things to use this money, because right now, the Secure Act was passed in 2020, and it is the stealth estate tax. And what it has done is it has looted our estate, especially any qualified money, looted our children of this valuable asset. And the Secure Act really has caused a lot of problems in estate planning, because people die, and we have what's called the 10-year rule. So any money in an IRA or a 401k has to be distributed to your children within 10 years, within 10 years, the 10-year rule. And that 10 years, the time starts when the second spouse passes away. That's when it clicks on. We haven't had 10 years since 2020. We haven't really seen it come into play. But I'm telling you, if you haven't done it, and I have a report that I wrote called the Bombshell Battle Plan, and that one's also, I brought quite a few of those with me if you'd like this one. This explains this terrible dilemma that we have in reference to building this money and then trying to get it to the second generation. Okay, so what do? Well, we do a Roth. We do a Roth conversion. Well, conversions are great, and they create tax-free accumulation and tax-free distribution and tax-free inheritance, but you got to pay taxes to get it into there. And I suggest that you do those conversions during the sweet spot, 59.5 to 73, and do some income harvesting, because we know right now we're at the lowest tax brackets. If we're filing jointly, we can do up to $400,000 and never get over the 24% bracket federally. There's state income taxes, but if you live in states that don't have income tax, it's not an issue. In fact, some people I've suggested move to Florida, take care of that right now, do those so there's no income tax in Florida. But we know that with the repeal, we could see a repeal of that in December 31st. So you also want to look for offsets. So if you're doing conversions, look for some tax offsets in the bombshell battle plan. But you know, a Roth is only worth what a Roth is worth. If I convert $100,000 from my IRA into a Roth and I pass away, how much do my kids get? $100,000. Well, I've actually found the holy grail, the perfect conversion, and it is the family bank strategy that I alluded to earlier. This is a way in which you can take advantage of the laws that are in place right now, and you can actually do what's called the RMD leverage strategy. And George and Sarah, I'm going to give you an example. George and Sarah are 70. They take a net distribution of $38,000. Why did I do $38,000? Because $19,000 George, $19,000 for Sarah, one kid Todd. I can do that distribution. That's using my gift allowance, $38,000. Well, in this slide here, I hope you can see, especially in the back there. But if you do that, the Roth at the end of the first year is worth $40,000. But immediately, my wealth creation strategy is worth $2.5 million. So if both of us meet our untimely demise, $2.5 million tax-free goes to the kids in the first year. In the family bank, it's $1.9 million. But we'll look at in the 20th year, the Roth, earning 6% with a 1% investment fee, has earned $1.4 million or $1.5 million. That's what it's compounded to. Still never catches up to the wealth creation. That's 20 years from now. This couple is 70 years old. That's when they're 90 years old. Most of them won't make it to 90 years old. The wealth creation is going to pay off way before the Roth would. So why would I do the Roth? Just take the $38,000 and put it into the wealth creation strategy to immediately create $2.5 million. Or the family bank to create $1.9 million. Well, okay, but David, the cash value in the family bank is not really going to be equal to the cash value in the Roth. Well, that's true. But look at the family bank is at $1 million. The Roth is worth $1.5 million in 20 years, but it still isn't worth what it was with the life insurance at $2.5 million. So it's kind of silly not to do some of your strategic moves. A Roth is not the only thing to do. Do the Roth on steroids, do the RMD leverage strategy. There are strategies that you can do. Okay, my last mistake is number 5. We covered all of the other ones, but we're going to come back to number 5. Why would I not take some of my lifetime exclusion or my annual exclusion and use it now? Use it, gift it away now to my kids and my grandkids in a trust. And if I use my annual exclusion, let's just use that. And let's just say I'm a male, female, 65. I'm in pretty good health, and I transfer $19,000 from me and $19,000 from my wife, Jane, to my son, Todd. What does it do? If I put it into the joint and survivor life insurance policy, it creates $3.3 million immediately tax-free. How come you aren't all using this strategy? This is an amazing strategy. Well, I'm not healthy enough. Well, maybe one spouse is. So then just do the single. So I got a male 65. He does the same thing. His family bank and his gift tax leverage strategy is now at $2.1 million immediately. Isn't that crazy? That's been out there. This is not something that David Phillips created. This has been out there for 150 years. Now, it's better, it's new and improved, sure. Plans that are out there that are very, very popular and very effective, but the concept has been out there. So, again, housekeeping, fill out the evaluation or the request form. Come back up here during the break or whenever, and I have my book. I'll certainly be glad to give the 10 most common book to you. If we run out, we'll just order them and send them to you, okay? I have a bunch of bombshell battle plans that I can give to you today too. We have a newsletter called Generational Wealth Strategies. There's a way to sign up for that on that back sheet. Myself, my son Todd does a column called Safe Money Corner. We have one of the top estate planning attorneys in the country that's a co-author with us, and Rick Durfee. And then Legacy Global Foundation Director Melody Gatz is a co-author. So this is a generational wealth strategy. I think it's a very powerful newsletter. Once a month comes out. Why do business with us? I mean, we're here today, Florida. I'm in Arizona. How do you do business with Fidelity? That's the same way you would do business with us, at least initially. I mean, we can visit with you, or you can come into Arizona and visit with us. It's a great time of the year this year. Just don't come in July. Okay, so what is this all about? When I had my first granddaughter, and I told Dallas about her because she went to the same college. She's going to the same college that he graduated from. And she's a pole vaulter there, and she is excelling in pole vaulting as a freshman. She set all the records and and won the WAC, and she's doing great, and she loves it there. Once I had my first grandkid, my whole life changed. And I understand now with 19 of them that this is pretty cool. This is really a cool thing. And I want to leave a legacy to my grandkids. Not only my personal stories, but I want to leave a financial legacy to them. And they appreciate that, and I tell them that, and that's really what this is all about. Thank you so much.